Today I'm going to be taking a look at the all-new Radiomaster TX15. This is the Max version, available in black, red or gold, and the standard version is available in iron grey, frost white, iceberg blue, mint mist, lemon twist yellow and hot pink. The packaging is different this time, going with a white sealed box. With both the Max and the standard version, you get their cloth carry case, a simple manual and some stickers. The case doesn't come with any stick protectors like how the Boxer Crush does, which I think would have been a nice touch for the Max version. And as a reviewer, we are sent some Radiomaster 18650 batteries. These are not included in the customer version, but the battery cradle is. The battery bay is big enough to house bigger batteries such as the GMB 5000 mAh 2 cell, which I would strongly recommend because the TX15 is basically an elongated Boxer, with a 3.5-inch 480 by 320 IPS color touchscreen display with 600 nits. A single internal LR1121 Express LRS chip capable of up to 1 watt of power, as well as a more powerful H7 processor, which will all be heavy on the battery. The single LR1121 chip means that it can do both 2.4 GHz and 868/900 MHz, but not at the same time. It's either one or the other, so no crossband or Gemini with this one, which is a surprise because I would have thought moving forward, Gemini and crossband would be their direction. The folding dual-band antenna is bigger than the one on the Boxer to cater for both bands. At the making of this video, the LR1121 chip does not have EU LBT support, but Radiomaster says that it is coming, meaning that both the TX15 and the GX12 should be supported soon. Express LRS are hoping to have added it in version 3.6. This is important for a CE rating for use in EU territories, and it's a requirement by law and also a requirement for a lot of retailers. They will not stock it if it doesn't have a CE rating. And of course, you need a CE rating in the EU to use a radio like this at big events and also for insurance purposes. If you want to use Gemini or crossband, then you can use one of Radiomaster's external modules, as this radio has a full-sized JR bay on the back. The Max comes with Radiomaster's new AG02 gimbals, which have 20% reduced weight compared to the AG01 gimbal, with adjustable travel on both the vertical and the horizontal axis. The AG02 gimbal is backwards compatible with the Boxer and TX16. What's not backwards compatible, however, are the pre-installed controllable RGB LED rings around the gimbals. They use a new interface and are controlled via Lewis grips. The LEDs come pre-installed on the Max and can be fitted to the standard version, but they are not included with the standard version of the radio. But none of the other current radios are compatible with the LED rings. I didn't think I'd be much of a fan of the LEDs, but aesthetically, they do really make the radio pop. I can see people making their own custom Lewis grips for this. Even since I've received the radio, Edge TX have already started playing with it, and I really like this one where the lights change colour as you move the sticks. If there's a download link for that, then I will put it in the video description, as it's not installed along with the standard scripts at the making of this video. I've got mine set up under the Special Functions tab in Edge TX on my arming switch. And with Edge TX, the options are endless, so you can pretty much do anything with these LED rings. Just like the Boxer, the shoulder switches are a 2-position push button and a push button momentary switch, and the switches all along the top are all 3-position switches. Then we have the color changing 6 buttons above the touch screen. They do give you the option with the Max and the standard version to change out the shoulder buttons for a traditional 2-position and momentary switch. There's also a second option, which you will have to purchase separately, of two 3-position switches, which you can install in place of the push buttons or the 2-position switches that come in the package. I'm going to stick with the push button switches because while I like a traditional switch, the push button switches are less likely to break. And as someone who is a thumber, I do find the top of the radio difficult to reach, so the push buttons make that easier. I can see a pincher finding the top buttons more reachable. Out of the box, the tension of the throttle is too loose and it slowly falls under its own weight. As I'm a Mode 1 pilot, the radio only comes in a Mode 2 configuration. It's easy enough to switch to Mode 1 though. Remove the covers on the back and you can access the tension clamp for both gimbals without taking the back of the radio off. Personally, if you are doing this, I would recommend taking the back off anyway. It's just 4 M2 hex screws and it lets you see the screw positions on the gimbals more easily. This time the warranty sticker is above the line of where the radio comes apart, so taking the radio apart can't be used as an excuse to not fulfill your warranty. Not that Radiomaster has ever done this in general, it's kind of a given that most people are going to take the radio apart at some point for either maintenance or modification. Be aware that when switching from Mode 2 to Mode 1, the Mode 2 throttle stick has grease on the plastic to make the throttle smoother. If you want to replicate this when switching to Mode 1, then you might want to put some grease on the other side. I'm happy to see the option to tighten a ratchet clamp for the throttle. I have really shaky hands, so a ratchet really helps me to keep the stick steady, and I've tightened the tension on all of the sticks in general to help with this as well. Looking inside, you can see that there are 3 auxiliary connectors. We can use this for adding head tracking equipment, but they are using a different type of connector this time. It looks like the JST-GH style of connector, but they have put solder pads next to them if you just want to directly solder to the board. We can see that the LED rings also use this type of connector. I can't help think that while the LED rings are not compatible with any of the other radios, we can maybe somehow use the auxiliary pads on previous radios as a hack to get a similar function, but Radiomaster says not. And for all you 3.3 volt lovers out there that like to do modifications such as head tracking, there is a small 3.3 volt pad on the bottom left of the board. The removable hand grips can be quite tricky to put back in place. Just take your time, otherwise you will end up marking them like I have when trying to rag them back in place. Both versions of the radio have a built-in gyro. This is integrated with a tilt X for left and right and tilt Y for back and forth. The idea being that you can tilt the radio and perhaps have telemetry call-outs when you do that. Or if you are brave enough, you can set it up as a control input, which I would not recommend. They are suggesting that this could be used for a pan-tilt setup. It's not something I'll be using myself, but it's there if you want to try it. There's no way to recenter the gyro at the making of this video. It's pre-calibrated out of the box, with the center point being set, with the radio completely flat. So you would need to add an offset if you hold your radio at an angle like I do, which is not ideal. Perhaps Edge TX can add a gyro centering function in the future, like the MT12 Surface radio has with its gyro module. There's also a built-in microphone. This isn't functional yet, but I believe we are eventually going to get voice commands in an update. It's currently running Edge TX version 3, which will be available when the radio is released. I am disappointed that there are no sliders for fixed-wing pilots that like to use them for flaps. We have potentiometers on the top with a nice indent, but they are not as easy to reach as sliders are. Radiomaster are definitely focusing more on the drone market. Personally, I think this is a bit of a shame. The RC plane community has been around for a lot longer and doesn't seem to be diminishing as much as the drone market currently is. A colour touchscreen is nice and is a deal breaker for a lot of people, but when flying FPV with goggles on, you can't see what's on the screen anyway, and in my opinion, a monochrome backlit screen is much more suitable for FPV. This touchscreen is also quite small and can be fiddly to use if you have big fingers. Luckily, we can still use all of the buttons and the scroll wheel to navigate around the screen. To make the touchscreen usable, as I said earlier, the radio is like a boxer with the bottom half elongated to cater for the screen. I can see why they've done this because the boxer is a very popular radio. My initial impression is that I still prefer the feel of the boxer. The TX15 feels like it has more weight to it and is a bit more awkward to hold than the boxer. This opinion might change though. I wasn't sure about the GX12 form factor, but other than the boxer, it's actually become my favourite radio, and it has sliders for fixed wing. Despite the lack of sliders, I can still see the TX15 being a great radio for fixed wing. I only use the sliders personally to test out my pan and tilt setup for head tracking, but there are people in my club that won't buy a radio without sliders. While on the subject of head tracking, sadly, Radiomaster has given up with their own wireless head tracking solution, focusing more again on the drone community. While this is a shame, it's not the end of the world because their wireless trainer modules can double up as a wireless head tracker solution. It's just on the head tracker side that will have to be the DIY part if you want your head tracker to be wireless to your radio, which in my opinion is the best option. Otherwise, the XF Robot head tracker wired to the trainer port is another great single wire option. Just like the GX12, everything is now done through a single USB Type-C port, which includes balance charging, a SIM joystick, access to the 4GB onboard flash storage, and firmware updates. There is an option to add an external SD card as well. I've always found the fake carbon fiber effect on the Max a little cheap looking. I do prefer the solid colours of the standard edition. The CNC Hall effect gimbals are nice, but they won't make you a better pilot. They might give you a nicer feel, but the V5 Hall effect gimbals that come with the standard edition will be nice enough. It all depends on your preference and how much you are willing to spend. The AG02 gimbals are also being released and sold separately on the release of the TX15, and they come in more colours than they are releasing for the TX15 Max, but there doesn't seem to be any purple or silver versions. Lastly, there is a slightly wonky lanyard hook and a headphone jack on the top, and we have the DSC port, which is the trainer port, as I talked about earlier. So, is this the radio for you? I see lots of comments of people saying, oh, the Boxer would be perfect if it had a touchscreen. Well, now we kind of have this, so let me know in the comments. The TX15 standard will be $139.99, and the Max will be $199.99. There are links in the video description if you wish to buy one, as well as links to the LED rings if you want to upgrade the standard version, the new AG02 CNC gimbals, and the 3-position switches that you can buy as an added extra if you want 3-position switches on the top of the radio. Thanks for watching, cheers!